Ladies and gentlemen, PlayStation just killed physical media. Xbox is laying off over 1,000 people and shuttling 4 of their studios straight out the door. And now console players like me, and maybe you, are trying to figure out what the best place to play long term is going to be. And Steam has become a really compelling option here for console players now that Steam OS supports a wide range of AMD GPUs. Can console players really get a console-like experience on PC in 2026? And that's what we're talking about today. My full steam ahead 30-day challenge where I build my own Steam machine and I play exclusively on Steam OS and Steam for 30 days. To give you my experience as a 40-plus year console player veteran trying PC gaming for the first time in a very console-like experience. So that's right, y'all. I'm excited to announce my full steam ahead 30-day challenge where I'm going to be building my very first PC. Okay, so there's a lot of things to cover in this video. So I'm going to be talking about, the ground rules, why I'm doing this, how I'm going about it, my thought process behind everything. That way you know where my head's at when we start talking about the Steam machine that I'm going to build. Okay, so first let's talk about the ground rules. The full Steam ahead challenge. I'm going to be playing on Steam and Steam alone for 30 days once my Steam machine is built. So that means I'm not going to be playing on PlayStation or Xbox or even Nintendo Switch 2 during that entire 30 days. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be chronicling day by day my experience on the platform, any issues that I'm running into, or just, some of the good experiences that I'm having while gaming on Steam as my main and only platform for the next 30 days. Now, if you notice, I also said Steam OS, so I will not be playing on Windows either. So even though that's an option for people that are going to be jumping into Steam OS, they want to try dual booting, Windows, Steam, whatever. I've kind of had it with Windows, and I recently completely got rid of it on my Legion Go 2, and now that is full Steam OS now as well. That brings me to the next part of this. One of the more appealing aspects of the PlayStation 6 that's rumored is that it's going to have a handheld component to it where you'll be able to play native PlayStation games. And that's a really appealing thing to me. And so to be able to have SteamOS running on a handheld to play games natively and SteamOS running on a console to play games natively on my TV that way, that's really the most compelling idea to me, something that I've been looking forward to on PlayStation and something that I've been doing kind of with PlayStation already via remote play. But if you've ever done game streaming or remote play, you already know there's going to be issues attached to that. If you're out of town and your, power goes out or something like that, you're totally hosed. Or, if you're on a spotty Wi-Fi connection, or, maybe you can't hardwire your PS5 or something like that. There's always going to be issues with game streaming. So it'll be nice to be able to game natively on a handheld and natively on a console at the same time. And I will also, because I am a big remote play game streaming advocate, despite its issues, I'm also going to be testing out the Steam Link functionality. So I'm going to be able to stream games from the console to the handheld. So you're going to get kind of the full gamut of like how you would potentially be playing, between a handheld and between console and moving between the two. And we're going to see if Steam's cloud save system is as good as PlayStation's, which you have to pay for on PlayStation. You don't have to pay for on Steam. So there's basically 3 main devices that I'm going to allow myself to use during this challenge. The original idea behind this was to get a true, real Steam machine and then only also use a Steam Deck. So I know a lot of you guys out there are interested in a Steam machine, Steam Deck combo. I was too. I didn't win the Steam lottery. I was not allowed to purchase a Steam machine. I'm on the wait list for who knows how long. So I'm taking it into my own hands to make my own Steam machine, which is what I'll be using here for this video. So I'll be using my own custom-built Steam machine, and we'll get into that in just a little bit of what the parameters in which I build it and kind of my thought process behind that. I'll be using the Legion Go 2, which is now running full Steam OS. It's not officially supported yet by Lenovo and Steam, but it's working pretty well, pretty good enough to use it. And then I'll also be using the Steam Deck OLED. So you can expect to hear experiences about all 3 of those devices and moving games in and out of those throughout the 30-day journey here. What I will not be playing: no PlayStation, no Xbox, no games on Windows, no game streaming outside of streaming from the PC, so SteamOS, from my Steam machine to one of my handhelds. That's the only streaming that I'll be doing, so no GeForce Now, none of that kind of stuff. No Nintendo Switch 2. This is strictly 30 days of Steam and SteamOS only gaming, so that way console players that are considering getting into this can get the real, true experience of what it's going to be like. Okay, so let's talk about the Steam machine that I am going to build. That's going to be the first video after this one that drops on the channel later this week. I've got all of the parts that should be arriving by Wednesday, hopefully. And if so, I will do the build later on this week and then have that video drop maybe early next week, something like that. And then we can go ahead and start on our 30-day challenge. So my thought process for this, I had some money set aside for the Steam machine. So basically took the budget of, say, the 2 terabyte model, and I used all of the, that amount of money to buy all of the components for the Steam machine that I'm building. The goal here, I am not trying to match the form factor of the Steam machine. I am not trying to match the power of the Steam machine. I figure if I'm building my own, it's much better for me in the long term to build a system that is going to give me better performance, for a comparable price. So what I'm doing is building a comparable system price-wise to the 2 terabyte Steam machine model. But as you're going to see, it's quite a bit bigger and it's going to be a little bit more powerful. So whereas the Steam machine is more comparable to, say, a base PS5, my Steam machine should be more comparable to a PS5 Pro, maybe even better. So after, doing a lot of research, one of the things that's going to help me here, and this is a total cheat. So again, I'm not saying like, oh, this is a challenge to build this thing by this price. I don't care about any of that. I'm building it for me. I'm not doing, that kind of stuff. So I had a 2 terabyte NVMe drive that was in my PlayStation 5 Pro, one of them, and I just don't really need it in there because it already has 2 terabytes. So I'm going to pull that one out. So that's going to save me a little bit on the budget and allow me to get just a little bit better of a PC. So it's totally a cheat. When I bought that 2 terabyte drive, I think it was maybe $150, something like that. You try to buy that same thing now, it's probably closer to like $400. So there's a cheat in here that I'm going to be using, and that's just using an existing part that I have, which, hey, if you have existing, parts and pieces lying around too, you can build your own PC for cheaper, just like if you have RAM sitting around, things like that. Because RAM is definitely one of the most expensive pieces of this thing. And I'm going to be doing a complete video on the build itself, so you'll see step-by-step me building it for the first time. I have never built a custom PC before, so I'll be doing all of that for the first time. So if you're a console player, or if you're just somebody who's interested in building your own PC for the first time, you'll get to see me do it step-by-step. That'll be the next video on the channel. And basically, I went with kind of a mid-range package. I went with a Radeon RX 9060 XT GPU. The most expensive part of the build was, it's not the most expensive part of the build, but a part of the build that is more expensive than it should be is, of course, the RAM. So I did get 32 gigabytes of RAM, and that was a very painful part of the build. The CPU is a Ryzen 5 9600. And then, of course, I've got a bunch of other components and stuff like that. So you'll see all of that in the build video. I got actually a brand new case that just hit the market. It's a, kind of a mid-size case. It's one that's just really attractive to me in terms of its physical build. It's got some nice wood paneling. And so it's going to be fun to build, and I hope that you will consider subscribing to the channel so you can watch that. And of course, watch all of the other future videos regarding this particular challenge where you can see how I'm doing with SteamOS and if I'm loving it or hating it, or if things I like about it or don't like about it. One thing you can bet is I'm going to give you my 100% honest opinion. Now, another thing I do want to say about Steam is I'm not completely brand new to Steam. I do have a pretty big library of games. I've just, followed like Humble Bundles and stuff over the years and like Steam sales. And I've just picked up games over time, even though I really wasn't playing on the platform. You see a game for like $2 or whatever. It's like, I might as well buy it and maybe eventually I'll use it. I have played a couple of games start to finish on some of my handheld devices. So like I played Red Dead Redemption, the remaster, and I played Lost Soul Aside of all games. So I played just a couple of games, like basically handheld PC, but I really, most of the time, even on these handheld devices that you've seen me use on the channel, I've mostly just been remote playing and game streaming on them. The next thing I want to address is There's going to be people all over the comments about the physical game stuff, and I think most people can agree it's generally bad for the consumer that this is going away. Now, me personally, it honestly doesn't affect all that much because I have been digital for a long time, just the convenience of being able to swap games or, especially since I remote play a lot, I'm not always around a disc. I mean, sometimes I'm hundreds of miles away from the disc, so I can't just, change it. So I've been all digital for a while, but having the option to still buy discs is a completely different thing than being 100% locked to a store. And we're definitely getting arrogant Sony back running PlayStation. So it's kind of like back in those PS2, leading into PS3 days where they're getting a little bit too big for their britches and they're starting to make a lot of decisions that I do not like. As much as I've liked the console, I love the PS5 Pro. I really love their user interface. I love the software. I've loved the experience that I've had on PlayStation 5, but I've really watched them kind of bungle all kinds of decisions from, making bad purchases with their studios, like buying Bungie for $3.6 billion for God knows why. All of their other studios having their main flagship studios work on live service titles for no reason at all. I mean, we basically lost an entire generation of single player, third party, just one, type games from Sony, which I've not been thrilled about either. So all of that to say, I'm not doing this simply because they've gotten rid of physical discs. It's just another decision in a string of decisions that kind of starts to point to me that PlayStation is starting to head in a direction that I don't love, much like Xbox was starting to do when I left their platform a few years ago. You could say what you want about Steam. At least their platform is a little bit more open. I bought a couple of games earlier. I bought them off of Green Man Gaming, connected right to my Steam account, bought a game for $1.99. Boom, just activated on Steam, no problem. So at least, even though that's an all digital ecosystem, it's a more open ecosystem, and I can buy games from multiple different storefronts and still use it on a single platform, which is really nice. And of course, on PC too, you can, play games on Windows. You have just tons and tons and tons of options. You're not locked to one particular, console or one particular storefront. You can buy your games anywhere. That's kind of the advantage of gaming on PC. I guess that about wraps things up for today's video, guys. So if you're interested in taking this journey with me, full steam ahead challenge, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and definitely drop me a comment down below. Especially anything along this journey that you want to see or want me to touch on, or you're curious about the experience of, please drop those in the comments down below, because I'm going to be making maybe even more videos than normal, because I'm probably going to be doing maybe just some more, just talk straight to the camera type videos, just to kind of go over my experience. I will be able to still capture footage as well and do all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if the output will be higher or not. I definitely am going to be keeping you guys updated throughout the process. So if you have anything that you want to see, please leave those in the comments down below, and I will definitely try to cover those in some of my videos over these next 30 days once the challenge begins. And again, the challenge is not starting until I can play my first game on my Steam machine. So the PC build video that's coming will be a day 0 video. So that way, I'm not starting. I'm not like cheating. I'm not cheating the challenge out of a certain number of days or whatever. So definitely let me know, guys, what you think about the challenge down below and the kind of the rules that I've set for myself. Do you think there's any additional rules that I missed that we should include in there? Hey, whatever you think, please drop those in the comments down below. And as always, hey, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one to build a Steam machine.